Welcome to If the Public Only Knew, the show that pulls back the curtain on what it really takes to build and lead a business. Host Gary Cinderbrandt sits down with some of today's most dynamic CEOs, founders, and leaders to dig into their origin stories, hard-earned lessons, and the missteps that nearly derailed it all. These are unfiltered, no-hype conversations designed to inspire, challenge, and fuel your own journey. Now here's your host, Gary Cinderbrandt.
Welcome back to If the Public Only Knew. You never quite know what you're going to find out about on this show. Sometimes we talk about finance. Sometimes we talk about things that are kind of a mystery to a lot of people. Our guest today, K'lee Terrazas, is hopefully going to educate me and you, our listeners, into what has always been a mystery for me, which is why I get all these ads that I need to buy Google Ads. I have a website. I have a couple things I do online, but I can never quite understand why I should spend all that money, because it just feels like it's going one way and there's no way to track it coming back. K'lee, you've had an interesting background and have somehow ended up with a degree of expertise, not only in the Google ad space, but also advertising for a group that customarily you see advertising on billboards and park benches. So why don't you take us through that journey from how you figured this out and how it works right now with you helping lawyers find the right clients at the right time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Welcome to the show.
Gary. Thank you. I'm excited to be here. My journey started, it was kind of interesting. So in university all the way through, I was primarily in sales, but I had launched an app back in 2015-ish and just did a total face plant. You know, I didn't know what I didn't know. It was the School of Hard Knocks, which is the best teacher ever most of the time. But that's what forced me to really become an expert in digital marketing. I knew sales. I knew I had a great product, but I didn't know how to get it to market. Funny story. The patent fell through. I put the cart before the horse and already paid for the app and developed and launched it. The patent fell through because I was competing against Google on 3 different aspects of it. So I missed beating Google to the game by a year and a half, but I was on the right direction. But anyways, so I learned digital marketing, and then that just developed into, doing websites and SEO and all the things for all the people. And several years ago, I got my first personal injury lawyer, and I don't know if it was the former athlete in me or what, but man, I was like, this is a high stakes, highly competitive game. And I loved it. I loved working with attorneys. I loved, the thrill of the chase and the speed to the lead, or you lose it. So went down that rabbit hole, I read books daily. Even right now I'm reading a book, what they don't teach you in law school. At this point, I feel like I should be a law firm owner myself, even though I'm not an attorney. But I just believe in knowing where my clients are struggling so I can help them with those blind spots and be a better marketer for them.
So when you come upon a prospective a law firm that wants to retain you, and I'm sure they've tried advertising, maybe they've tried some stuff online and things like that. How do you kind of gather all the information together, figure out what they've been doing, get it corrected, agree on a budget, and even more importantly, how do we track what the results are versus what you're going to charge these folks? How do they know there's value there?
Yeah, that is a great question. So a discovery call helps me to not only, it's not a sales call, and I'm being 100% genuine when I call it a discovery call, because I need to know, is this the right fit for me too? I work with clients from time to time that I'll be on a call with, and I know that I am not the expert that they need. So I'm going to forward them on. I've got a huge database, a huge network of people that I can connect them to, but I'm just not the right fit for them, or not the right fit for them right now. But that discovery call allows me to ask some probing questions. The number one question I ask, and I will tell you about 95 to 98% of the time, law firm owners have no idea what's going on, which is just, do you know your numbers? Do you know what's happening with your Google Ads account? The biggest problem, and yes, every single law firm I talk to, they already have an agency. But simply they're getting a report at the end of every month via an email, this huge report, And marketing is like law. Like we have so many acronyms and so many different data points that basically these lawyers are just looking for red and green. They're like, I have no idea what's working and what's not working. I'm just looking for the arrow to be going up or down. And when we dig into the account, I often find many mistakes. You know, I can see right away within a couple of seconds, is this account being actively managed or is it on what I would call autopilot? So someone set it up, they came out of the gate strong, and then they just left them basically to run themselves. I can tell whether the account is structured properly. Is everything segmented to where we can see that data feedback loop that you were talking about? And then third and biggest mistake I often find when I'm doing these audits is conversion tracking is not set up properly. So to your point earlier, you're putting money into this machine, but you have no idea what's working. The worst part though is that the machine doesn't have any idea what's working. So if we're not giving the machine a feedback loop saying caller Gary that called from this phone number became a case, then the machine doesn't know what it's looking for. It doesn't know who's a winner, who's a loser in this ads account. And so it's just going to continue to spend money without discretion, thinking it's doing a good job if you don't have that conversion tracking set up to go back into the account and show that machine what's doing well and what's not doing well so that it can get smarter.
You know, it sounds like you're touching on a bit of either machine learning or AI
Mm-hmm.
as you're testing possibly different messaging for different law firms.
Mm-hmm.
You put 5 messages out there, they get ignored. You put 3 and you get 2 hits.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of want to dig into those 2 hits and see what's going on there and start to optimize around those themes. Is that the kind of work you do?
It is. So Google has been an AI machine for decades. So AI has hit the public mainstream big right now with all the chat GPTs and Geminis and the LLMs. But Google Ads at its core has always been an AI machine. So it's a data feedback loop kind of a machine. And in most accounts, I would say there's a 90-10 rule. 10% of the keywords that we're running are doing 90% of the production. And so our jobs as Google Ads analysts is to go in and see what those 10 top performing are, and then dissect the ads and the messaging to see which one of those are converting. And then we start testing them against each other to see, okay, this ad was a winner, these 2 were losers. So I'm going to pause these 2 and I'm going to duplicate an ad that looks like the winner, and I'm going to see if I can beat it. Because the other thing about this AI machine is it can get stale. So when you go on that, like, okay, I've been running $35,000 a month in Google Ads for the last year and nothing's changed in the account starts getting stale. The ads are going to become less and less productive, almost like a solar system on your house. Like every year you kind of start losing momentum. So if you don't have someone that's actively managing your account, then yeah, you're going to see a steady decline over the years on the production of it too, even though the ad at one time was a winner.
So walk me through. Somebody suffers some sort of tort, a personal injury. I assume medical claims are included in there as well.
Mm-hmm.
But where there's obviously something that needs to be fixed, what from the consumer standpoint, from the plaintiff standpoint,
Mm-hmm.
they go up and they Google personal injury attorneys or medical malpractice attorneys or something like that. Is that the first thing they put in?
Yeah, they would put something along the lines of I was just in a car accident. What do I do? I
Okay.
was just or filing a car accident claim. So we go broad to get, you know, and the net is wide. It opens it up to a lot of calls that may be irrelevant, but it's the needle in the haystack that we're looking for. Some of them will say Uber driver, like I was hit by an Uber driver, I was hit in an Uber accident, hit by an Amazon truck driver, workers' comp cases, stuff like that. So what my job is to figure out what the people are Googling. And I can see
I
that once
see.
once the account has started, there's what's called a search term audit report.
Okay.
So every person that's clicking, I can see what did they Google or what keyword did this pull up so that I can start determining, okay, here's the verbiage. Cause again, like even the term lawyer, you've got blue collar will use lawyer, white collar will use attorney. So I have to have
Interesting.
every ad and every ad group differentiating lawyer versus attorney because you want to be saying it the way they're saying it. That's who's going to click on it.
And is that geographically located for a general geographic area? Or how do you figure out once those words go in, how do you keep your client near the top of that stack? I assume it's where it says sponsored up
Mm-hmm.
top or something like that. How
Yeah.
do you keep them? Sometimes I'll see sponsored up here, and the third search term down is the exact same thing
Yeah.
without the sponsor tag on it. So is the sponsored the result of paid SEO, or how does that all come into
Yeah,
play?
that's a great question. So I'm going to speak legal because in some verticals it may be different. Not all verticals are like they don't all operate like legal. Again, it is the most expensive, the most competitive on Google Ads. It is literally the most expensive. Personal injuries, the most expensive ad that you could run, and that ranges from $75 to $500 for a click, not a call, not a conversion, just for if someone clicks on the ad, you're charged anywhere from 7,500 or
Wow.
$75 to $500. So it's really important for us to get this right. It's really important for us to really get the messaging right to get the right clicks. But once we do, the way that we keep them in the top is there's a bunch of different factors Google has. I like to call it the scorecard. They take into account a bunch of different things that's going on with the law firm. Things like how is your keyword ranking scores? Basically, are you in the account managing it or have you been put on autopilot? If you're on an autopilot, your score drops. So now it's going to be more expensive for you to run ads than it's going to be for your competitor next door because they have a better score than you do. Another factor could be if someone clicks to call your law firm and it goes to a voicemail, automatically bad score. So Google has this ranking score because their number one goal, and PS, Google makes 80% of their money through ads. Like that's 80% of Google's revenue. So their main goal is if someone's doing a Google search to connect them with the right person. And if you have a high bounce rate off of your landing page, negative score. If you don't answer the phone, negative score. And essentially, what happens then is this Google Ads is set up like a bidding system because they don't want someone that's a personal injury firm. I know a firm out of Texas. I'll just give them as an example. I'm not going to say their name. Massive firm. I mean, everybody knows their name. A nationwide would know their name. They're spending over $1 million a month in their own Google Ads account. And then they're spending anywhere from $700,000 to $900,000 a month buying leads from other accounts because they've tapped out. They've hit the law of diminishing return within Google. Well, so how do I take my personal injury lawyer, who's a small guy in comparison to this? Maybe he has a $35,000, $40,000 a month budget. How are we going to compete against this whale in the market? How I compete is one, Google is a bidding system. So it doesn't let that firm get every single, they're not going to show up for ads every single time just because they have a massive budget. That would monopolize the system. So in order for my client to be able to compete until his budget has run out, I look at a bunch of factors. I make sure his scores are good. I make sure that his click-through rates are good, meaning the people who are looking for personal injury help are getting personal injury help. The third thing is there's a factor with Google Ads where basically like these big firms that that are basically dominating the market, they're at the top of everything. They have a lower, typically they have a lower conversion rate because they're casting their net too wide. So they're getting a lot of irrelevant searches with this budget. And oftentimes I can do things like I can look in certain markets, let's say Texas, for example, since we were using that. Okay, well, let me run Spanish ads in Texas because that's lower hanging fruit. It's less competitive. Let me get them some big wins in the Spanish market and then not spend all of their budget competing with this whale in the English market. And I've seen that be wildly successful. Other things like the times of day. Sometimes a lot of law firms will spend their entire budget before 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So everything after 3 o'clock is technically
Mm,
what I would say a cheaper cost per click. Okay,
hmm.
well, let's make sure our budget set to be able to compete for those cheaper ones later in the afternoon when five other law firms have maxed out their budget for the day. So there's
Interesting.
a lot of
Yeah.
strategy that goes behind it.
Yeah, that's a lot of levers that you have to be aware of and pull.
Yeah.
Um, the last, I'd say, couple of years, we're seeing more and more what the capacity or the creative potential is for people that might have a great idea but never knew how to bring it to market. And I think in terms of these apps that are out there now, like for sale or Lovable, where you can actually build an app in an afternoon. It may not
Mm-hmm.
be, ready for prime time, but it kind of lends to, I think, almost an explosion of SaaS-based businesses
Mm-hmm.
where you don't have to go raise a lot of money or hire a bunch of coders to get it out there. So what do you do if you have somebody that's got a really nifty idea, good idea, in some space that is ready to be disrupted and nobody knows about it, but but it's got broad national appeal to a
Mm-hmm.
market with a lot of money. How do you go about getting the word out that you may have the next cool thing, the next shiny toy that people want to know about? And you're just working as, a couple of guys literally in a garage that
Yeah.
have built an application that no one yet knows about. How do you, because I get these things from Google all the time. We'll give you $500 if you spend $500. We'll help
Mm-hmm.
you design your ads, this and the other thing. And I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't even know where to start or how to
Yeah.
spend that money wisely. What do you do? Because I assume at some point, as you expand, you'd be looking at SaaS-based businesses, businesses that need to get the word out,
Mm-hmm.
where the largest part of their spend isn't going to be coders, it's going to be engineers, it's going to be marketing
Mm-hmm.
because the
That's
rest of it is almost free.
Yeah, that is a great question. So here's what I would say. If you don't have a bunch of capital that you've raised, right? You're not piggybacking off the back of $5 million that you raised on like some kind of group fund me or whatever, and you're just bootstrapping it. The number one place to go is not Google. And I would 100% advise people against Google. Shame on them, because they make it seem really easy and they incentivize you. Hey, I'll give you $500. Our AI can set up this ad for you. So basically, just put your money in the machine, tell us what you want, and we'll turn it on for you. As you've heard me talking through the intricacies of it, that is step 0.01 of starting and launching a successful Google Ads campaign. I spoke to an HVAC company recently who wanted to save some money. They brought their marketing in-house. They're a big company. I think they have 48 employees. They're big in our local market. They're spending $15,000 a month on what in marketing we would call pattern interrupt, TV ads, radio ads, etc. And they're only spending $5,000 a month on Google ads, and they brought it in-house to save some money. And I told them, here's the problem. And I think this is going to help you to answer your question. I'll get there. So, number one, no one is going to have an HVAC emergency and be watching TV or scrolling Facebook, right? So that's why pattern interrupt is good for branding. It's not good for client acquisition. I'm going to give a little bit of a different answer to your app question. I'm going to circle back to that and close the loop. But in this case, for example, I told him, I said, I'm going to challenge you here, because if I were running ads for, ABC HVAC down the street from you that does HVAC, plumbing, and electric like you do, I would smash you in this game, because Google Ads is like a game of chess, and you're playing it with very limited knowledge of the game, and you're playing against me, who's a chess master. I know how to set up conversion tracking. I know how to set up the right targeting. I know how to, set up the right zip codes. I know how to run the ads and test the ads and split test the ads. I just know this game, and you're playing it with a very limited knowledge of how it works. So if I'm going up against you with the same $5,000 a month budget for your competitor, I'm going to smash you in that game. So I told him, I said, here's what I would do. I would flip that and spend $5,000 a month on pattern interrupt and branding, because I know you guys are having fun with it, right? And it is bringing in clients. And then I would invest heavily in direct search marketing, because when people they have a plumbing, HVAC, or electrical emergency, they're going to Google. So whoever's at the top wins, whether you're at the top of the ads or you're at the top of the Google map pack. So local service businesses can be in that little map that shows up right under the ads. That's the number 2 spot. SEO is way down at the bottom, and SEO is a long game. And honestly, I don't know anyone that starts scrolling down to look through websites anymore. If you're not in the ads and you're not in the map pack, you're not getting the call. Just plain and simple. Now, to answer your question about if you're a new startup, very limited budget, you've got a banger product, a SaaS product that you need to take to market, you need to spend 100% of your time, effort, and money on social media until you get some proof of concept. And as soon as you do, you've got sales and you've got money, and now you're ready to step into the Google Ads game, but hire somebody who knows how to play the game. Otherwise, it's the HVAC. That's why I gave that example. If I'm running a SaaS, if I'm your competitor in SaaS and I'm running ads against you and you're in your mom and dad's garage trying to do it yourself, I'm going to smash you. You're not going to see any return. I'm killing that game for my clients because I know how to play.
So are you able to, with that, let's assume the SaaS product has traction, it has validation. It has a lot of different ways it can go. It's even got somewhat of a budget, but
Mm-hmm.
it is targeted to a very particular niche. It's
Mm-hmm.
a wealthy niche of people that need these services. Let's say they're currently spending a couple $100 million on services that are lame, that don't work. And
Mm-hmm.
this is going to go in and disrupt that. So are you able, instead of working geographically like you're doing currently with your law firms, are you able to target certain professions? Are you able to target certain search terms that the people in this niche might look for?
Yeah, it's all about search terms. So we could go geographically all over the world for certain search terms, and based on the volume of those search terms is what we're going to be able to tell you. Okay, this is the average cost per click for term XYZ. So, for example, truck accident injury, that's going to be a $500 click. That is a commercial motor vehicle accident, and that is a massive settlement payout. That is what has personal injury lawyers, that and catastrophic, like a accidental death or something like that. That's a potential multi-million dollar payout. So these lawyers will pay whatever they have to pay to get that into their firm.
Who sets that
So
pricing?
Google, and they set it because
Interesting.
they know the value of it.
Fascinating.
Yep. So
It's like they're profit sharing.
yep, if you're in an
That's smart.
industry that Google knows, like mortgage is another, mortgage brokerages, Google knows that's a high ticket. Roofing knows that's a high ticket. You're going to pay more for that because they know that you're making more on the back end than you would say, I don't even know, let's just say plumbing's pretty competitive at this point, but let's use plumbing. So plumbing, the cost per click may be $30, but for roofing, it's going to be $150. It's all based on the value exchange of how much you're making on the back end, and Google knows that you're willing to pay more for that.
I want to come back to one point. This is all really
Mhm.
interesting. I want to come back to one point. When you talked about where you would natively rank
Mhm.
um, based on content, are you talking about the content that appears on the website, or how many
Mhm.
backlinks there are referring to a particular lawyer? Let's say a lawyer's been at 3 different firms, he's published 7 different times, and he's on 15 different boards. And then he's at this law firm you're working with. Is that going to rank higher than somebody who just hung out their shingle?
Yeah. So SEO is search engine optimization. That's based on your website. And then SEM, search engine, I don't even know what the M stands for now. Wow. But that's Google Ads. So there's two different ways you can rank: paid or organic. Organic or SEO, that's going to be way under all the other searches. In some niches, some categories, there's not a high ad volume, or there's not potentially even a Google map pack for that, right? A SaaS company, it's probably, there's no map pack showing up because no one's looking for that locally. They're looking for, a software. They can buy it from anywhere. So then you're just competing against the top 3 ads. And then under that would be mainly the organic search or the SEO. Now, SEO is about to hit major disruptions. I have a guy on our team who went to the Google Search Conference 2025. He's been trying for 3 years to get into this. It's invitation only. He finally got accepted, got to go to their conference. This is out of the mouth of the beast themselves. So Google's telling you, if you want to rank, excuse me, if you want to rank organically, here's what you've got to do. Well, everyone wanted in this conference this year because AI is a major disruptor. One of the marketers I follow, he's an author, Daniel Priestley. He wrote the book Oversubscribed. And if you're in business of any kind, that is an amazing business book for you to read. Oversubscribed. He's bought and sold multiple $30+ million companies, marketing genius out of Europe. But he said basically this is one of those times in history that it's similar to the car, when the horse and buggy was overtaken by the car. No one knew what that was going to look like in disrupting the market because it never happened before. Or electricity, when electricity finally came to the forefront and a couple of people had it, everyone's speculating what's going to happen next. How is this going to change the job markets and all this stuff? Well, nobody knows. It's never happened before. Nobody has any idea what's going to happen. That's really what Google said. They have no idea what's happening with SEO. And honestly, they said personal branding is going to be the number one factor for your ranking, showing up on video because that's more organic and less, they can detect AI faster. Those people are going to start showing up more because Google basically said, we have no idea what's happening. Like everything's changing so fast. We don't know. We don't know what's going on.
So where do you see it all going? I mean, I know the one thing that you probably have to be really concerned about in your world is the rapidity of change,
Yes.
because we're not like we're out changing bricks and mortar or taking down a factory. There are just things that can happen incredibly quickly. How do you keep up?
Yeah. So with SEO, we don't specialize in that, but I would tell anyone that's interested in SEO or investing currently in SEO services, there is, with all of the new LLMs or large language models, the chat GPTs, the Google Geminis, the Claudes, there is a way for you to be able to search organically to be populated organically within search there. Some people call it GEO, other people call it LLM. I think S search, I can't remember. But anyways, there are SEO experts that are learning how to get your business populating in ChatGPT. So if I ask for a law firm, there's a way for me to show up in that local search through ChatGPT using what's now being dubbed SEO for large language models. And that's really interesting shift. And I foresee it going as far to saying, okay, Kaylee's a female, she's this age, she's in this area. And if she's needing a lawyer, I would say this lawyer, based on all the knowledge I've been fed, would be the best fit for her specifically. Maybe not the top ranked on Google, maybe not the one running ads, but the right one for her, the one that is the best for her personality type to help what, she's after. So that's going to happen. I believe that 100%. And
It's hard to disagree with that. I think you're absolutely correct. How do you handle with your firm if there's another vertical you want to go into, and it's going to be a great prosperous vertical, helping the people that are there? I'm thinking specifically about, I think there were 2 million coders in the world maybe 3 years ago. I think it's on the way to 2 billion, because you don't know how to write code. You just have to know how to move stuff around. So how do you handle what I think is going to be an influx of people that have great ideas and want to get exposure? It might not necessarily be priced the same way that Google's pricing for law firms.
Yeah.
But what do they do? What does Google do? Do they look at the potential of a particular app and judge how profitable that app might be, and then do their pricing that way? Or how does that all develop?
So, and I'm not the expert here because Google gets to change their mind whenever they want. But basically what happens is the competition that you have now. So if you're one of one and you're the only ones wanting to run ads, then it's going to be very inexpensive. But if you're one of many and you're competing against a huge pool of people that have money in that space, maybe like I'll give you a good example in my industry. So when I was running Google ads for law firms, the very next thing I found very quickly was the bottleneck. And the bottleneck was intake. So once they got the click, the intake was dropping the ball big time. And I knew that because I was blind testing my law firms. I was calling their internal teams during the day. I was also calling their external teams, they would outsource for after hours. And I would very rarely find anyone that I would grade a 5 out of 5 call. And I would send those to the law firm and say, this has to be fixed. These are very expensive calls. This should have been a case. This should have been a case. Here's what your intake's doing wrong. Well, off the back of that, I developed intake EQ, which is I named it EQ off of emotional intelligence because I
Okay.
was like, I cannot launch this until it sounds like a real human. It has background typing noises, call center noises. Like I needed this to sound like a real human because these are expensive calls, but I need someone consistent. I need someone who can answer the phone consistently with empathy, with, not at 4 o'clock feeling like they're going to jump out the window because they're so sick of this,
Mm-hmm.
like this job and answering these calls. And I needed someone who could take 500 calls in one day with the same consistency they took the first call with. So we launched Intake EQ, which is an AI answering service. This is business agnostic. You could be a law firm or you could be, you know, a financial professional. You could be in any niche. If your phone rings and you don't answer it, you just lost an opportunity.
Sure.
So one of the things that that's the motto for that is missed call equals missed opportunity. And Google said 2 years ago, they did a study that said 60% of Google business profiles, they missed the first call. 60% of businesses miss the first call. And I'm like, guys, they're not leaving you a voicemail and waiting for you to call them back. They just called the next one on the list.
Yeah.
If you're a roofing company and they have a roofing emergency, they're not going to wait for a couple hours. They've got 5 other roofers they're going to call next, and you just lost the job.
Yeah.
So, that's how I'm jumping in front of it. The other thing that I would say is find someone who knows marketing, who knows the game to consult with you. Because a lot of times, if we knew our blind spots, then they wouldn't be our blind spots. And I come across the blind spots all the time in law firms, whether it's marketing or I've partnered with some fractional CFOs because they noticed, hey, whoa, like within 5 minutes, I can see that you're payroll heavy. You're spending over 50% of your money on payroll expenses and only 10% on marketing. You're not going to survive another 2 years like this. You've got to cut back on these expenses. Well, one of their major expenses would be intake. If you're running $30,000 a month in leads, you're getting a lot of calls and you have to hire somebody to take those calls. Well, if I charge 70 cents a minute and the call center charges $5 a minute, I just cut your bill in a fourth.
So
So
to describe really what you do, you're almost like a fractional CMO.
close. I don't like to say that because there's a lot of other things that go into it. But yeah, I
Yeah.
would say when it comes to client acquisition or intake system optimization, which is really just fancy words, yeah, that's my bread and butter to be able to see, like with that HVAC company, I'm like, nope, you're running way too much money on pattern interrupt. They're not going to
Yeah.
find you on a commercial. They're going to find you on a Google ad search. So
Fascinating. K'lee, this is all really, I just sit here and when I have this type of conversation, I realize that there's so much more that I don't know that I actually do. And one of the things I enjoy about doing this podcast is I get to learn. And to me, if you're not learning and going forward, you're kind of going backwards.
mhm.
And with everything that's going on today, it's like you're never going to run out of things to learn. This
Yeah.
is really fascinating. Thank you so much for joining us today. How do people find you if they want to learn more, even if they're not lawyers, but they've got a business they want to talk to you about and how they can do better on Google search? How do people find you?
Yeah, so you can reach me directly at info@legalleadsharks with an s.com. And if you're not a law firm, that's okay. I've worked in digital marketing for a long time, lots of different verticals. If you're interested in the AI agents, it's intake-eq.com. But yeah, just reach out to me on LinkedIn, on my email. I'd be happy to talk with you and answer any questions, see if we can uncover any blind spots and help your company to grow.
Thanks, K'lee. Really enjoyed talking with you today. You've been listening to If the Public Only Knew. I've been speaking with K'lee Terrazas from Legal Lead Sharks. Thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you on the next cast.
Thanks for tuning in to If the Public Only Knew. Don't forget to follow the show and share it with anyone who's ready for the real raw stories behind the business successes. Join Gary next time for another powerful conversation that will leave you inspired and ready to take action.